Hi Red Base, it's Misty. Are you ready for another adventure? This time it's with Snuffles. And Snuffles is having difficulty with his houses. So the title of my story is called Snuffles' House. And the author is Daphne Fawns Brown. And it's illustrated by Francis Thatcher. On the front cover, you can see Snuffles, and he's in a triangle-shaped house. Can you see? Let's turn the page over and see what his adventure is. Snuffles is a hedgehog, and like all hedgehogs, he has long, sharp prickles and black shiny eyes. Snuffles used to live in a small square house among some very tall trees. Can you see his little square house amongst the tall trees? Now that's our first shape, and the first shape that we see is a square, and a square has got 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. On top of his house, he's got a chimney, and then he's got 2 windows, and he's got a door. So let's turn the page and go on the adventure with Snuffles. One morning, when Snuffles came home from a walk, his house was nowhere to be seen. There were clouds of smoke coming from a bonfire on exactly the spot where Snuffles had lived. Can you see the bonfire? And Snuffles looked really sad because his house has burnt down. His square house is not there anymore. Let's turn the page over and see what he does next. The sad little hedgehog walked away. He wandered among the flower beds and across the lawn in search of a better place to build a new home. Can you see the sad little hedgehog walking through the flower beds, looking for somewhere to build a new home? Let's turn the page over. All Snuffles' friends had square houses, but why not build his house in a new shape? An oval house, he thought. Now that would be beautiful. He set to work straight away. This is what it looked like, and Snuffles felt very proud. Now the next shape we see is an oval shape. Can you see his oval shaped house? An oval looks like an egg. It's the same shape as an egg. Now he's got 2 windows as well, and he's got a door, and he's quite happy because he's having a cup of tea in his little garden. So let's turn the page and see what happens next. What a fright the poor little fellow had as he walked into his bedroom. The whole house rocked sideways. He could only keep it straight by staying in the middle of the house. That night Snuffles slept with his back feet above his head and found it very uncomfortable. And there's Snuffles in bed, and he was very uncomfortable. So let's turn the page and see what happens next. In the morning, he thought, definitely not an oval house. I'll try a round house. Yes, that's it. A big circle like a full moon. He laid in bed with his thoughts. Now let's turn the page and see what he did. Snuffles worked hard all day, and in the evening he had finished his round house. It was bedtime, and Snuffles was very tired as he climbed the stairs to his new bedroom. Can you see his round house? It's like a circle. It is a circle, and it's just got one side. It goes all the way round. Let's turn the page and see what happens next. As he walked into his bedroom, he turned upside down and then began to spin. Snuffles' beautiful round house was rolling, bouncing and bumping. The house stopped with a thump when it hit a tree trunk. Snuffles had to sleep in an upside-down house that night. Can you see his house rolling down the hill? Poor Snuffles was inside, but he didn't get hurt. Let's turn the page over and see what happens next. When he woke up, he felt very sore and miserable. He now knew that his home must have a flat bottom, as his old square house had done. A triangular house. It would be exciting, like sleeping in a tent. It would have an upstairs like his old square house. He's laying in bed in his round house and he's thinking about what his triangle house would look like. Now I'm going to turn the page and see what happens next. But even this house had a very sad ending. His triangle house had a very, very small upstairs. Snuffles could only get to the top of the stairs and squeeze his nose into his bedroom. The point on the triangle did not leave room for a whole hedgehog at the top. Can you see what's happened? He couldn't get upstairs because there's no upstairs. The triangle, that's another shape we found. It has got 3 sides. It has got a flat bottom, but there's no room on top for his bedroom. I wonder what he did next. Let's turn the page over and find out. Snuffles went into his sitting room and thought about his new house. He thought about all sorts of shapes and sizes. That's his triangle house. He thought about a diamond-shaped house. Now that has not got a flat side, so that won't work. It hasn't got a flat bottom. One shape he thought about was an octagon. What a very big and grand word it was. But he knew that an octagon had 8 sides, and he felt this would be too difficult to build. Can you see the octagon? He's thinking about making an octagon house, but he thought that would be too difficult. So let's turn the page over and see what he did. At last, Snuffles thought of a good and safe shape to build. It was a rectangle. It would have a flat bottom and plenty of room upstairs. So he got pen and paper and he made a pattern to draw his house. He thought about it very carefully and what his house would look like. Let's turn the page over and see what happened next. Snuffles' rectangular house was very smart, and he painted a sign to stand outside. It said, "Rectangular house. Mr. Snuffles lives here." When I last saw Snuffles, he was still living there. He had built it as far from the bonfire as possible. Now a rectangle has got 4 sides as well, but it has got 2 long sides and 2 short sides. Now let's turn the page over. Now, Red Base, that was the end of the story. The end of the story was where Snuffles made a rectangular house, and it was very smart. And he had painted a sign to stand outside, and it said, "Rectangular house. Mr. Snuffles lives here." And he lives there to this very day. So let's have a recap of the shapes that we saw. We saw a square that had 4 sides. We saw an oval that was the shape of an egg. We saw a circle that had 1 side. We saw a triangle that had 3 sides. And we saw a rectangle that had 4 sides, 2 long sides and 2 short sides. Snuffles' square house burnt down, so he had to make a new one. And the only one that suited was the rectangle house. Maybe you can look around for some shapes, and maybe you can draw a house of your favourite shape. Until the next story, Red Base. Bye for now. Have a good day. Bye.